This time we'll be looking at Mojo from the Toy Biz Marvel Legends Series 14. He's the Build-A-Figure. Mojo makes his first appearance in Longshot number 3 in 1985. While not a tall figure like the Galactus or Giant Man or the Sentinel, he is a pretty fat figure, pretty bulky. Of course, he's got his big stomach there, and his chair with this little scorpion tail like device. He's got a nice sculpt face, great detailing with all these wires and stuff. You prop his eyes open. Wiring detail continues to the back of his little chair thingy all over, and even to the inside right there. All very nice detailing, different kinds of wires. Well, just a mess of wires, and the sculpting really does a good job at that. He's got the little icons of himself, or I don't know what you would call them, the motif here sculpted. Those are very nice too. One thing that I don't like is that these clear plastic stands here are a bit too short. If they had been maybe another ½ inch or so, you could get some really good poses with the legs like this, but as it is, the legs are too spindly to support the weight of the rest of this, so you have to really put these legs down close to the ground, and just doesn't have the same effect they would if these were a little bit longer. For articulation, for the character himself, all that's really articulated is his arms. Do a 360 here. Rotate at the bicep and have a double elbow bend, hinge, rotate at the wrist, bend at the wrist, and all the fingers, extra long fingers, are one joint. And that's basically it. His legs, like I said, they do kind of rotate. The first two move in and out a little bit, as well as rotate. Here you can get some posability with these. Again, not much because of the stubby little stands that they have there, the clear plastic stands. And again, that's about it for articulation. So it's not a very articulated figure, but that's in keeping with the character. Just do have to mention his nice, sickly, greenish yellow paint job. I think is done very nicely. He's supposed to be a really disgusting character, and he is a very disgusting figure, I think. Also want to mention, looks like he's ripped off the Harkonnen heart plug from Dune. I'm not that big of a fan of Mojo. I do like this Build-A-Figure though. I think that's because the creepiness of the character. I think oftentimes when he's appeared, it's played for comedy, and the creepiness of the character actually has been lost over time. He's portrayed as more of a comedic villain. Let's get into his history. He comes from this race of spineless creatures that are in another dimension. Of course, being spineless, they have created these exoskeletons slash chairs or stands to help them move around. They've also managed to create some genetically enhanced slaves. In their dimension, all the broadcasts of television transmissions on Earth were intercepted and perceived by the race as dreams. So that's how their whole sort of society became based upon television and entertainment. The person who would control entertainment would be in control of their race and their world. Mojo took control of this of the slave making process and the television industry, becoming basically the dictator of this dimension, of this world, for life. And his chief cloner had kind of a little change of heart, I guess you would say. So what he did in his slaves, he developed a recessive gene of rebellion, I guess, and that culminated in the creation of Longshot, who escaped and led a slave rebellion, returned to lead a slave rebellion. However, that did not go over so well. Longshot escaped to Earth. Mojo also kidnapped Psylocke, who had become blinded, and gave her cybernetic eyes. These eyes actually turned out to be cameras, which were used to spy and record the X-Men adventures. That's how the X-Men really become stars in the Mojoverse. Forces Mojo to repeatedly abduct members of the X-Men to force a confrontation. Although I suspect that it would get a little bit tiring after it. He has to do it in search of ratings to maintain his power. Now he tries to create his own version of the X-Men as tiny little babies, or tiny little toddlers, and that results in the X-Babies, but he makes them too much like the X-Men, and they rebel against him. He's briefly overthrown by a clone of him. Of course, being the whole Mojoverse being a sort of knock on the entertainment business, that clone is called Mojo 2, the sequel. Eventually, Mojo, the original Mojo, returns to power. Really, he's nice to show. He shows up every once in a while, and the X-Men have a silly adventure. There are always good opportunities for writers and artists to parody or satire popular culture. A lot of his appearances may not be the best stories, but they're definitely some of the fun stories out there. So that's it for the review. Stay tuned for my next review. See ya.